Blockchain and cryptocurrency are pretty hot topics right now. People are holding Dogecoin until it hits $1, and Tesla just announced the $1.5 billion purchase of Bitcoin and plans to accept it as payment in the future. But what does that have to do with gaming? Well, a lot actually, and Atari seems to be going all in. Cryptocurrency is a decentralized form of digital currency that can be exchanged for goods and services online. It combines the anonymity of cash and security of using a credit card. And to be secure while also acting like cash, cryptocurrency relies on the blockchain, which is a network of people who verify each transaction by solving complex math formulas to create a blockchain, and blocks cannot be altered, which makes them very secure. Because of its decentralized nature, you can see why cryptocurrency would be a good application of the blockchain, but how does that relate to gaming? Well, there are a lot of applications actually, and it's pretty interesting once you start to dive into it. The most obvious application is using cryptocurrency to buy in-game items. But you can already buy in-game items with US dollar or any currency that you choose, but what if the in-game item was based on the blockchain and they were unique to a certain degree? I really don't like microtransactions, but it seems to become a normalcy that's being implemented in games as a means to increase cash flow. Many of the popular games are going free to play with the expectation that you'll pay way more over time on in-game items that are being sold for $1 or more. Fortnite being one of the most popular. There are skins available for the player to customize their character to their liking, and it's a pretty lucrative business model, but the issue is that it's still a bunch of pixels that don't really belong to the user, and they can also be duplicated to scale with the demand. And that's where the blockchain comes in. Just like the blockchain brings a tangible asset to digital currency, the blockchain can make digital in-game items tangible as well. These are called Non-Fungible Tokens, or NFTs. Now, non-fungible tokens are not cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency, while people call them coins, are interchangeable and don't change from coin to coin. Non-fungible tokens are a lot like trading cards. While some are duplicates, some are rarer than others, and some have desirable attributes that a player might want for their collection. So if something like a Pokemon trading card, for example, is unique in real life, then an NFT can bring that realness to the digital space. One example of this being put into practice is the game The Sandbox. The Sandbox uses the Ethereum blockchain, which allows users to own a plot of land and create, sell, and buy items for that piece of land to show off to other people. Now, if that sounds like Animal Crossing for the Nintendo Switch, it's because it kind of is. But the main difference here is that the blockchain makes each item in the game unique to the user who created it, meaning that there is a sense of ownership to that asset. Now, a lot of this doesn't really sound groundbreaking for the end user. Real cash auction houses existed well before the Sandbox, but the blockchain is a great feature for game developers because it almost makes the gray market obsolete. In traditional games, items are bound to the user and then traded for in-game currency to others. But if you wanted to sell a rare item for actual cash, then you needed to either have an in-game auction house or use a third-party site, and there's always that risk because either the person you're buying it from could just take your money and leave, or you needed to give them access to your account, which opens up a whole new realm of risk. Keeping it in-house and ensuring that all the items are unique gives reassurance to the user that the item that they're getting is not only genuine, but gives them a sense of ownership that they wouldn't otherwise have in a traditional video game. And as a developer, you can be sure that exploits can't be used in order to duplicate rare items en masse and ruin your in-game economy or break any balancing mechanics that you've built around that item actually being rare. Plus, when you create a market for your in-game, you can take a little bit off the top as a transaction fee and make money off of creators' work while they themselves can make money as well. In addition to in-game items, the Sandbox also sells plots of land, and you can buy one tile Or you can be like Atari and buy up huge blocks of land to create theme parks of sorts for people to visit, like Roller Coaster Tycoon Land or Atari Land. And Atari has been going all in with the crypto gaming space and cryptocurrency in general, but can they raise its profile into the casual space? I'll be honest, I really didn't know a lot about crypto gaming until I was starting to talk about the Atari VCS, and it's weird because the concept of crypto gaming isn't entirely new, and it's not like the Sandbox is some small indie developer looking to make this grandiose project. They have a pretty sizable audience and have already raised over $20 million in sales of land that people can buy to build out their dreams. And the previous wave of land actually sold out in a minute, so I couldn't even buy 1 square of land to see what all the fuss was about. But you can still buy some land on the auction house. A big 6x6 estate, for example, runs you about 20,000 sand, which is the cryptocurrency that they use, which equates to about 4,700 US dollars. Not exactly cheap. So what does this have to do with the Atari VCS? Well, the Sandbox will probably be featured on the Atari VCS, which seems to actually have been an afterthought as they had to change the name of their PC mode. It was originally called the Sandbox mode, so they changed it to avoid confusion when the game inevitably comes out. And it makes sense that the Sandbox would come out on the Atari VCS, seeing that Atari has a notable stake in the game. They're actually the second largest landowner in the game, and like I mentioned before, you'll eventually be able to visit Atari lands and play reimagined games and visit the Roller Coaster Tycoon land. Atari is actually part of another game called Decentraland, which you can see the Atari HQ in a virtual space, and it'll play out a lot like this on the Sandbox. And in here you can play Atari games and buy Atari gear for your character, and all of it is non-fungible. The Atari VCS, while not as intriguing to traditional gamers, does have an opportunity to carve out a market with crypto gaming, and not just with the Sandbox. The Atari VCS also plans to have other blockchain features such as the Ultra app, which is a gaming platform that recently integrated the Theta streaming service to their portfolio. Ultra uses the blockchain to create a decentralized streaming service which can increase streaming fidelity by having the users share bandwidth, and also give streamers the ability to reward their audience with non-fungible tokens, while the audience can also earn currency just by watching the stream as well. When you look at the potential that the blockchain has to create a good gaming experience, the Atari VCS's place in the gaming space starts to make a little bit more sense. It can be used as a vehicle to get people not already familiar with this type of gaming on board with it. At least that's what the plan is currently. But if you were to look at the official website of the Atari VCS, or their Medium blog, or their Discord, you'd be excused for not knowing that the Atari VCS was heavily involved in this crypto gaming space. But if you look at places like VentureBeat, Atari CEO Fred Chenet talked with them back in December, and you'll see that Atari's involvement with cryptocurrency and NFTs, along with their involvement with the Sandbox, is pretty tight, but no real mention about how the Atari VCS plans to utilize those features. You can only really speculate on what they're going to do, and honestly, if I had to guess, they're really not sure when they plan to implement these features that I spoke about just yet. And with the Atari VCS set to release to the public this spring, without those blockchain features available at launch, you have to wonder what the Atari VCS can offer besides a PC in a beautiful case until those features are actually released. I mean, they recently locked down the BIOS even harder than they did when they first shipped it, which took away the last real appeal that this system had when it was shipped to backers. They do apparently have plans to restore that access, but for now, it's really a no-go to use the system. All I know is that the blockchain features are coming, it's just a matter of when they'll reach us. And the blockchain does have potential to transform gaming, not just in a specific game like the Sandbox. What if you could make a digital game that you buy non-fungible? Right now, when you buy a digital game, it's not really yours, right? You're paying for a license to download the software on your machine, and if you play it and you don't like it or you grow tired of it, then you're kind of out of the money that you just spent on it. And it's not really that big of a deal if it's a couple of dollars, but when you start paying $30 to $60 or even $100 on digital games, then it starts to make an impact if you can't recoup that cost. It's one of the main reasons why Sony and Microsoft still offer consoles with the disc drive. Sure, they prefer you to get the digital version so that they can sell games directly to you and keep the higher margins, but gamers still prefer physical titles because they're a tangible item that they can keep essentially forever. There's such a large market for physical media, in fact, that companies like Limited Run Games and Special Reserve Games are becoming sizable publishers because of it. And that's where the blockchain can make digital a bit easier to adopt. Make every copy of a game a non-fungible or semi-fungible token, meaning a copy of the game is as unique to the person who buys it. It doesn't seem like much until you realize that now you can sell your game after you're done with it, even though it's digital. And it kind of makes your mind melt just a little when you think of it. It's digital, but it's unique. And when a game becomes a non-fungible token, it becomes as real as this copy of Earthbound. Except your digital copy of Earthbound isn't subject to battery backup failure, theft, or fire. Of course, the big game companies really don't have a desire or motivation to make digital games non-fungible. I mean, the whole reason why they want to go digital is to get rid of that secondary market. Why make $60 once when you can make it as many times over and over, and then when a game dies down, you can slash that price to $30 and still keep all of that money instead of somebody else getting that money. And that's where the Atari VCS can come in and disrupt the market. Since they're essentially building a new ecosystem from the ground up, and their system is all digital, they can adopt this practice. But it doesn't look like they have any plans to do so, and they don't even accept cryptocurrency as an option for payment on their site. At least I don't think that they do. I have no real desire to log into their system until they remove the password requirements for the BIOS, so you can correct me in the comments below if that's the case. So right now, the Atari VCS really doesn't have anything more to do with it than it being a publicity stunt that isn't very distinguishable from other more established digital marketplaces like Steam or the Sony PlayStation Store or Nintendo or Microsoft. Which is really disappointing because as far as I can tell, non-fungible tokens on the blockchain have a substantial future in the gaming space. If you're still having trouble visualizing what it can do, all you have to look at is the book and movie Ready Player One. A whole virtual space where people buy and sell non-fungible tokens to build their world and their social status. There are even super rare NFTs in the game that give one player specific access to the entire world. The Sandbox shares a lot of similarities with the Oasis, but there are still hurdles before it becomes mainstream, the biggest being the cost of entry. If you miss out on buying land in the game, your best hope is to buy it from someone else who has it for auction on OpenSea, which the cheapest piece of land is about $500, and that's a lot of money to spend on something that only has potential value. Not to mention the transaction fees needed to buy things. If you're using Ethereum, you need to pay a gas fee, which is the cost it takes to verify the transaction on the blockchain. The other hurdle is that cryptocurrency in general is pretty volatile, sometimes changing in value every hour. Ethereum, for example, dropped more than 20% in value in just 24 hours, but it's doubled in value since the beginning of the year. So if you buy something for 1 Ethereum when it was worth $2,000, and in the next couple of months 1 Ethereum is worth $3,000, then it might be difficult to get a full 1 Ethereum back if you choose to sell, since it's the currency that's worth more, not necessarily the item that you bought. And the other hurdle being that it's just kind of hard to understand if you're not already well invested into the crypto space. You can't just hop into a crypto game like you would a PlayStation 5 game. You need a crypto wallet, and some are limited to invitation only, and those are exclusively used by the game itself. I tried to get into CryptoKitties and they use Dapper, and I can't create an account right now. Or if I wanted to get into the trading game of NBA Top Shot, they closed their signups as well, at least temporarily. Also, just understanding the concept of an NFT is a barrier as well. On the surface, an NFT really is no different than a Fortnite skin. So why would you pay more money than you already do for a Fortnite skin? How do you convince people that these digital tokens are real and have more value? In order for crypto to catch on in the gaming space, it needs to exist seamlessly on the back end, and that might take a while before it becomes reality. And even then, when we see it in AAA titles, we'll probably only see it in practice as a better method of selling you trinkets inside the game, and I doubt that we'll see an immediate future where we can trade games among ourselves. And I don't think that Atari is going to be the one that makes it mainstream either, but they do stand to make the brand a lot of money just by existing on the space early on. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, consider subscribing for future content. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Snicktendo. I'm Super Nicktendo. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.